Welcome to Engage with Emily, a LinkedIn Live series where we learn together with industry experts. Today's topic is setting yourself up for success, creating an unstoppable day. So today we will walk people through how to set up their high performance day. I'm your host, Emily Green, founder and CEO of Emily Green LLC, a consulting firm that focuses on public relations, business development, and public speaking services. Joining me today is Kristy Kuhl. So thank you for being here, Kristy. I'm going to read your bio and let people know a little bit more about you. So Kristy is a performance coach and speaker. Her coaching clients include entrepreneurs, CEOs, executive teams, and sales organizations. Her proprietary framework, systems, and coaching were developed out of necessity during her fast-paced, results-driven career in the medical device industry. These tools became the foundation of her success as she built and led some of the most successful sales teams in the world over the course of 15 plus years. Kristy is on a mission to provide actionable, real-world solutions to people actively seeking to elevate their life and business. Her methods are designed to be implemented immediately, empowering transformation and results. She delivers this value through her coaching, speaking engagements, and her podcast, Keep Rising with Kristy Kuhl. Kristy also leads driven women who are ready to step into their highest potential through a 12-week coaching program called Unleashed. So you can learn more about her at unleashedwithkristy.com. Thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
It's going to be awesome. Like I said, I did a little sneak peek yesterday, and I've been putting together like some of the things you talk about with your Unstoppable Day already, and I'm like, wow, it's already helping me. So I know it's going to help so many people that are listening, live and also be watching this after we're done today. But let's talk a little bit about something else before we get right into the, nitty gritty of this. And this is a really serious topic, Kristy, that I'm about to bring up. Why did you pick purple for your brand, for your logo, for all the stuff? Why purple?
Well, I go more like my first reaction is always intuitive, and then oftentimes because I'm asked questions, then I have to make sense of it. And I think that it's such an elegant, to me, it breeds elegance. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's you. Elegance, beauty, personified. Purple is one of my favorite colors too. So I selfishly wanted to bring that up so I could say that, so I could tell people that that's one of my favorite colors. My agency, Grace Communications, was mostly purple with our colors. So
we should have wore purple today. Neither one of us wore it.
No, red's kind of my thing now. Love means business, love, all the things. But I just had to bring it up again so I could talk about purple because I love it. All right, now we get a little more serious. I always like to start it out with a not so serious question. So let's talk about how did the Unstoppable Day concept, how did all of that even come about?
Sure.
Bring me back.
Thank you so much for asking. So I think it's always really important. A lot of the work that I do is helping people connect to who they are and what's important to them and what they naturally like to learn about. I've always been obsessed with time management. I've always gotten really annoyed when people waste my time. When I was in corporate America, to have meetings for the sake of having, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, what really happens? And the higher I climb, the more confused I got. I'm like, what do you guys do? Like, we're going away for 4 days to do what? Right? Like, did we do anything? So it's always been a natural obsession of mine, but it really was, this system was birthed out of necessity. I was leading some of the most successful sales representatives in the industry when we were getting the Da Vinci robot off the ground. And we had so much pressure on us, and our teams had to both sell and then go in the operating room and train everybody, and then also be the support and stand there for sometimes 16 hours a day, depending on how long the cases were and if there was multiple cases with multiple surgeons. And it was one person. And so when you're thinking about having to grow your number by millions and double-digit growth quarter over quarter, like every 12 weeks, you have to have a really robust pipeline. I was unfortunately faced with decisions of having to fire people more frequently than I wanted to. And once I started to dig into it, it really came down to where were they spending their time? They were missing the number because of where they were spending their time. And I thought, okay, if I can reverse engineer this and help them understand understand that these are the activities, like everything is coming at you. These surgeons don't think that they can do it without you, that staff doesn't. You want to be there. There's all these things. And then the way that we're naturally wired, they were working their tails off, Emily, and their wives were ready to divorce them. They missed every activity with their children. And I was on the brink of having to, unfortunately, make a decision. So I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way. And if I can identify the things that move the needle forward and give them a way to set themselves up so that they're not upsetting people, that expectations are set, I really think that I can help them have a full circle, like success in every area of their life.
Yeah.
That's where it started.
That's awesome. That sounds like a ton of pressure, like you and your team. And that, I mean, it sounds like you were under a ton of pressure every day.
Yep. Yeah, but it was good. I think that I don't think that all pressure is bad. I think that a lot of stress and pressure can be good for you. But I think that there's like this would be an unnecessary piece of pressure and stress where it's like, gosh,
yeah,
I can't figure this out, and you just feel stuck, and you're like, my goodness, I'm working my tail off, and I have a huge heart. I'm trying to help everybody and make sure that these patients are good and everybody feels good. But at the end of the day, I'm still not getting across the finish line. So to me, it was like, how can I reduce that piece of pressure and stress so that it was all good pressure and stress.
And I think some of the best inventions, whether it's ideas, whatever, come from necessity. So it sounds like you recognized a issue, a pain point, whatever you want to call it, and you found a really great solution. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with me. So let's kind of dive a little bit more into what are some of the components that make up that unstoppable day, because you have a lot of really specific things you talk about, which people like me, like you were, I don't want to say you're type A. I know I'm a little type A, so I like to have very specific things to focus on. Like if I do this, this, and this, then I will get this. So let's talk about that. Like what would be step one in creating this unstoppable day?
Yeah. So the unstoppable day, and type A times 1,000. So you can call me. You can
I didn't want to assume.
I proudly wear it. It's I'm wound tighter than a drum, and it is what it is. And I have ways to come out of that when I'm not working, but. And that's part of my success blueprint. So the Unstoppable Day is one module of a greater program, My Success Blueprint, which is 6 modules. And it really is, success is defined by you. And that's the most important thing that I love to teach is what is your definition of success? Or what do we need? What is the definition of this? Like, how do we get this thing across the finish line? And so it all starts with what are you focused on every single day? And can we identify what the most important activities are that are going to yield to success? So as the example that I had mentioned with sales, well, if all I'm doing is supporting cases, well, how am I ever going to get new business out of that? So understanding that, having new conversations would be a key activity, and making sure that I'm doing X amount of those every single day. That's time blocked on my calendar. Balance does exist, Emily. We just have to identify what's important to us and the activities that get us across the board. So like the first step of the Unstoppable Day is really sitting back and reflecting to when was a time in my life where like it just seemed like everything turned to gold. Every conversation was great. Everything that I put out there, every social media post, it just seemed like it landed. Why was it that way? What was I doing that made things seem to be so great and so successful? And so I get people thinking about that first. And once they got it, then I go, okay, if we were to go back to the last 30 days on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at making sure that you're doing that thing every single day? And that question alone usually makes people go, oh, like that's $1 million, piece of free coaching right there. That people should be taking notes on, like, what was that thing and am I doing it? And so for you and I who want to be on more stages, did we tell anybody today that we want to be on more stages, right? That would be one of those.
I have to tell people, Kristy, what?
Right? We think that they're just going to like drive by and find us or just know because I'm over here thinking. Right. And manifestation is a beautiful thing, and I'm a huge believer in it. we also have to go to work too. So if we were to just go like even that going, okay, well, gosh, Emily, like what's our number? Well, we probably don't know our number because we haven't been doing this enough, but like, do we have to reach out to 5 people a day to be able to land 1 a month if that's our goal? I don't
Yeah.
know. And part of this process is identifying what that number is. So, you know, understanding what the most important thing is in business and what the most important thing is as far as your personal life goes too. So I like to start small because I believe that we have to be able to hit the target.
Yeah.
And when we hit the target and we actually execute on the thing that we say that we're going to do, then that starts to build confidence. So we start with 1, but it's probably more like there's probably 4 or 5 things in your business that you need to do every single day.
Yeah.
Same for me. There's probably 4 or 5 things personally.
Right. Well, I don't want to cut you off because you were on just that was awesome what you're saying. But I feel like one of the things you mentioned that really stood out to me and that I know has helped with my success is consistency. And I know you talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is something that people, they drop the ball. Like they might be consistent a little bit and then it's like they're not seeing immediate results. So like, well, I'm just going to stop doing that. And true consistency, you have to do it over and over again for a while. You can't just give up because you don't get instant results. So can you talk a little bit more about that and how that plays a part?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking that because I feel like people are always looking for the secret. They come to me and they're like, well, how do what they're just looking for that one thing. And I'm like, dude, you got to do it every day. You can't just do it one time. And the best analogy would be like, okay, it's going to be bathing suit season before we know it. And so like, you don't get that bikini body by making sure you got your protein intake in and you had a lot of time on attention lifting weights one time. It's time. It's you gotta do it again and again. And you can't just drive by and be like, oh, that's my gym. You actually have to go and do it.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's been through that process where it takes some time and then you get a few weeks in and you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and you're like, whoa, all right.
Yeah.
Starting to shift a little bit, starting to shift a little bit, right? And then, but so you have to be consistent. And one of the things that I find is incredibly helpful, and it's part of my success blueprint, is finding the fuel that feeds the fire for you. That is the thing that we need to tap into every single day. So I have this 1-page legacy statement that's part of that program where it's like, I see what is my legacy? What am I here to do? What is the fuel that I tap into every single day? And once I see that, sometimes it takes a little while to get down deep enough to find it. But as soon as I see that, it's like, there's no excuse big enough that I could ever put out there that's going to get in my way. But the reality of it is though, like I'm 44, like I have to have this stuff sitting on my nightstand, on my desk, my scorecard, my legacy statement. I have to have reminders on my phone. Now it's repetition. But for most people, we don't think that we need that stuff or we think something's wrong with us. You got to put the sticky notes, as many alarms, as many everythings as you can. Accountability partners are good. But I think if you can find the fuel that feeds the fire, that is like a game changer. I've seen it with so many clients where they just become unstoppable on a whole new level. And consistency and discipline really aren't a problem anymore. But the secret is stacking days of those activities, the personal activities and the professional activities, stacking days. That's when you get into momentum. And then when you get into momentum, you're like, man, I don't know if anything could stop this now, right? Like
You're unstoppable.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm the phone just keeps ringing, right? I'm booking so many speaking gigs. But that happens because you've done all the reps.
Yeah. It's funny. I saw that so much when I owned Grace Communications and we would do public relations things for our clients. Now I see it for myself too. But a lot of times people just want like instant results. Or they want you to tell them like, okay, I want you to guarantee I'm going to get this, 2 speaking engagements every month, but I only can give you 3 hours a month to work. And it's like, ooh, I don't think I can do that, right? So it's just like also having like realistic mini goals that lead you to the big goals. And you just talked about that. I think it's like stacking, like you said, and you staying consistent will get you there. It might not get you exactly what, in the time frame, but it's going to get you a lot closer than if you just give up like if you just give up.
Yeah. And the reality of it is you don't know how much time it's going to take you.
Yeah.
Unless you've done it before. And so the example of you and I going, okay, we want to be on more stages.
Yeah.
I don't have the number figured out yet.
There's
Like
no
I did, like in
magic.
scale, I had it down. I'm like, okay, if I have 5
Yeah.
in-person conversations, sit down, I have their full attention.
Right.
I'm going to close 4 out of the 5. I'm going to
Yeah.
find the money. I'm going to, for like, I knew my numbers. So then I could,
Yeah.
if I looked at my calendar and I didn't have 5, then I knew my pipeline was going to dry up. And maybe 3 or 4 quarters from now, I'm not going to have what I needed.
Right.
But now here I am going, okay, I want to be on more stages. I want more people
Yeah.
in this program, et cetera. I don't quite know what my numbers are. And that's another thing that I always talk about is you have to come back and calibrate and go, okay, how are we doing? How are we doing? Do we got to kick this up a little bit? Do we got to like, okay, are we getting too busy? Like what's happening here? What really is the formula? And to your point, everybody wants you to just come in and say like, okay, this is, this, and it just doesn't work that way.
No. All right. Well, I'm glad we dived a little bit more into that. And I know you kind of split it up into areas, or at least that's how when I was going through, and I'm a nerd. Okay. I was like a big study geek person in college, and I own that proudly. So I took notes.
Me too.
But, I kind of I saw like 3 areas, and correct me if I'm wrong, but area 1 was your personal life. So I wanted to, you kind of started talking about that, but maybe we could dive a little deeper into that. I feel like that's kind of where it has to start, is focusing on your personal life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're a good student. You're a good nerdy student. I always look at it this way. When I say what's the most important thing, and people are like, oh my gosh, like the kids are coming in the bedroom before I even have a sleep, and my husband, there's like life comes at you. And we have to get in a position at some point where we are running the show here, and we know that everything is forged right here for us. And again, there's probably a handful of things, but it's easier to think about that one thing. And for me, sleep is a huge priority. Like I don't do good on sleep with little sleep. But even more than that, like where everything is forged for me is working out. Because when I think about that, there's so many other things, dominoes that fall. And so when I'm working out, and I work out early in the morning, well, you better believe I'm going to prioritize sleep. And then on top of that, I have to prioritize hydration and include my salt. I wasn't doing that for a number of years, and that has made a huge difference for me. So hydration with salt. And then I then I'm more focused on my protein. Because if I'm putting all this work in, I want to see the results. I want to catch myself in the mirror and be like, all right, we're getting somewhere. Right. And so protein and chasing this thing at 44 looks a little different than 34 and 24. So for me, it's working out. And so if I can prioritize that, then I start to go, oh my gosh, there's all these other things that fall, and I can check all these other boxes so effortlessly. So what is that? I'd ask you, have you thought about it for yourself? What is that for you?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to copy yours, but I feel like working out has always had a domino effect for me too, because of what you said. Like, if you want to really be a good athlete, because I was a runner in college, I still run. I'm really slow now, but I still run. And you have to set your lifestyle up around to be able to do that successfully. And it creates all these other healthy habits that I feel like do set you up for success. So I'm the same. I always make time for working out. I don't always do it at the same time, but I do the time blocking. So I block out my day the day before, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do it this time today, or I'm going to do it here. But I think it's an excuse when people are like, I don't have 30 minutes. It's like, well, you probably did. You didn't manage your time in advance.
Yeah. I love the people that will want to talk to me all day long in the DMs on how busy they are and how they need my program because life is so busy, but then they don't ever buy the program, and we don't. It's like you're spending the time doing something else, right? You have to do that. And I love what the other piece that you said, and this is what I think is so important, is I can tell you what I do, but we have to find the system that works best for you. And you're like summer school, like you've already got most of the stuff and you get it really quickly, where for you, you're not going to do it at the same time every single day, and that's okay. You have your system probably at the end of the day or sometime yesterday, you're like, okay, what's my day look like tomorrow? Where am I going to get it in? And if that works for you, then that's great.
Yeah. Well, because I think that's the thing too. A lot of people, they'll take a system like yours and they're like, well, I can't do that. That doesn't fit my schedule. Because I've had that with clients that I've worked with, and I'll be like, here's what I suggest you do to, get booked more, to get more interviews, to do this, to increase your social, whatever. And they're like, well, I can't do that exactly like that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about how you could customize it and still, put the time in, but to your schedule. And it's like, what? I can do that? And it's like,
Isn't
yeah,
it crazy how the world is looking for permission? Like everybody is looking for permission. It really is crazy how
yeah,
that works. But it's like that's the piece that it's like this has got to stick for you.
yeah,
So you know yourself, and before the world told you who you should be, and before everybody said, oh, 90% of millionaires and billionaires are getting up before 5. That is probably true, but there's a lot of other people that have proven it that they're night owls as well. I'm a
yeah.
morning person. After 8 p.m., like I shouldn't be able to drive a car. It's just the way that it is, right? So,
Yeah,
but
same.
like, so I figured out a system that works for me. And the fact now that the iPhone has this upgrade where you can schedule your text messages.
I know, it's amazing.
Whoa. Oh, so many people. Like
Amazing.
I am like in the morning, I'm like sending my text messages, and one person a long time ago in my life said, "Can you take me off the list?" And I was like, "Well, sure. What list are you
Yeah,
on of mine?" And she
yeah,
said, "This 5 a.m. texting thing." And I was like, "Oh, that's when I respond to text,
yeah,
And that's my system. And I said, "You have your alerts on?" And of course, she had a daughter in college and wasn't tech savvy, and so the fact that I can schedule those, like,
amazing.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just it's an interesting point. It seems obvious, but I do think to some people if you can't help them see how it can fit their needs and their lifestyle, then they can't figure out how to make it work. But I don't know, for me, I've just always had this like ferocious passion for things that I want to get done. And
Yeah.
if you tell me no, then it makes me want to do it more.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, okay, that's fine. You said I can't do it, but I know I can, so I'm going to figure it out. But I think a lot of people don't necessarily have that, or like you said, they're waiting for permission and they almost need you to tell them like, it's okay. Go ahead. Go for it.
And you can
Don't
do an
take no.
abbreviated version. Like you can do,
Yeah.
like part of the blueprint is morning routine. Well, my
Yeah.
morning routine is pretty extensive, but guess what? I live by
Hmm.
myself with my little dog and I don't have children and I don't
Yeah.
have to go.
Yeah.
So are there ways where we can start to stack some of these activities that I do that maybe
Yeah.
you want to do too? Like maybe you're listening to the podcast as you're driving to work
Yeah.
or while you're making breakfast, or there's
Right.
ways to do things. And instead of doing 30 minutes, maybe it's just 5. What's the most important thing that's going
Right.
to fuel you? And
Right.
again, this is why storytelling and examples are so important when you're
Yeah.
teaching and leading people, because they can start to go like, oh, there is another way. There is, okay.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, so we're talking about like a scorecard. When you talk about your scorecard, what do you mean by a scorecard?
Yep. So it's those a lot of times I say high paying activities, but it's the activities that I know I absolutely have to do in order to reach my goals. So when life comes at you and you go, what in the heck did I do today? I know I was really busy, but man, did I reach out to anybody and tell them that I wanted to speak? Did I like do any cold calls? Whatever those activities are that are going to get you closer, did you even do them? And
Yeah.
that's the piece that I find that most people, because life is so busy, that it's focus. It's a lack of focus. And so to have those, laminated or just sitting on your desk, wherever you work, I think
Yeah.
it's really important to have like a workplace, even if it's your car, have a notebook. What are
Yeah.
those 4 or 5 things that you see they're in front of you all the time that you have to do? And that has to be prioritized, because if we hit that, then success is inevitable. And we stop worrying about hitting the big number of 25 stages this year or 25 million or whatever
Yeah.
it may be, because we're laser focused on, I just have to make time to do these 5 things. And if I do those 5 things and I get really good at doing those 5 things, it's going to stack. And it's going to happen. There's no way it's not going to happen.
I read somewhere, or maybe I'm just making this up, I don't know, but that a lot of anxiety is caused from inaction. I know that's like a quote I heard from somebody, but I'm botching it. But anyway, I know for me, I help my anxiety by putting things into action. So having those stackable activities, or having like a formula, like you said, with sales, like it may not be perfect, but at least I know, okay, if I do, like you said, if I reach out to 10 leads a week for speaking, I'll get booked for 1 to 2 a month, which is my goal, right? So I think that's the other thing, like people that might be anxious or you're worrying all the time, it could be because you don't have those routines. And just having that and doing those things is going to make you feel a lot better.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. I think I agree. I don't know what quote that is, but I agree. I feel like I've lived it. I've lifed it.
Yeah.
And that's why everything I teach is so actionable. Like, I don't want you to have to go through 4 days, of content before you can take action. Like, if you hear something, pause it and go. And the other thing is, clarity comes through action.
Yes,
So
it does.
you can't sit here and think like we has to be perfect and we're gonna get our master plan on our desk. No, get out the door, get on the phone, and give yourself permission to figure it out. And that was a big thing that I had to get over. If you can imagine, there was no room for error, obviously, in the operating room. No room for error. And so to go from, that was a huge shift that I had to make going into entrepreneurship of like, it's good enough, right? Well, there was no good enough over there.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want to move on to area 2, professional life? So how do you go from there to the professional life, and kind of talk about some things that play a role in that?
Of transitioning from personal to professional?
Or area 2 within that, the whole program that you have. What are some things that you focus on to help people in that area?
I honestly think we covered it quite a bit, like with just the professional, like when we think about the speaking and the sales, because if we think about what is your professional goal, it's probably going to be a revenue-based goal.
Yeah.
For the most part, you want to make this much money, or you want to speak on this many stages. And if you stop and think about that big number, it is really overwhelming. And to your point, it can breed a lot of anxiety. And a lot of us get frozen because of that feeling. And so the whole methodology behind this is to break it down to something so small, and so that you can show up for it, that you can actually execute on making that sales call or making that post or letting one person know every single day. And knowing that activity, if you do that every single day, you may have to increase your cadence to hit your number, but we know it's the right activity. Versus, again, just sitting here and hoping that people are going to drive by and know that Emily and Kristy want to be on more stages. So it's really like to me, I don't know about you or your listeners, but to me, sometimes that big number is like beyond overwhelming. Yeah. And it's like, it kind of stops you in your tracks. And then you go like, gosh, what, like, I don't even know what to do to get that. And then you kind of get confused on your path. And then you go back to that thing that we talked about earlier of like, okay, there's got to be one thing, Emily, that if I do it, you're going to promise me all these results. Well, that doesn't exist. I'm sorry. Yeah. It really doesn't exist. So I think that when you see the big number or the big goal, then we start looking for the secret. And then that gets us on a bunch of different paths that probably are irrelevant. But if I can just stay laser focused, like I have to do these 3 things. And if I do these 3 things, we know these activities will yield to my goal. Boom. And maybe there's 4, maybe there's 5, but I would start with 1 because we want to build momentum. My job, I feel like, is to get you in momentum, and momentum is getting you in action, and you starting to see like, okay, I walk by the mirror, I'm like, I see it. Oh gosh, somebody responded to something. Oh, this algorithm thing, I'm starting to get the hang of it. Like the consistency is paying off. And then you go, okay, it works. All right, let me add another thing in here. And
that confidence starts to build, and confidence breeds more opportunity. So that's amazing too. So you have a very strong background in sales, and I also love sales. If you're in marketing, you're in sales. If you're a business owner, you're in sales. Whether you want to talk about it or not, you are. But this is a little off of where I wanted to go with this. But I just wanted to bring this up because I have a feeling you'll react to this. What do you do, or have you had people that you're trying to help and they're like, no, I don't want to do sales. I'm not into sales, and almost like it's a bad word. Like, how do you overcome that if you have experienced that where people are like, ew, sales? And it's like, okay, do you know that's how you make money, right? Like,
yeah, I'd probably ask them like, what was your worst experience with a sales representative? And I probably because that reaction, there's something specific that happened to them, whether it's, I don't know, somebody didn't treat them well, or maybe somebody had like a really icky persona that was a sales rep in the neighborhood, or I would want to understand and just so that I know. But at the end of the day, If you if you want Mexican food and your husband wants Italian and you really don't want Italian, aren't you going to probably try to sell him on why you need to go to get Mexican today?
Yes. That's a
Right?
great way to phrase.
And like
Yes.
all the moms and dads out there, like how many times are you selling your kids on why they need to brush their teeth? Because right? Because
Yeah.
I mean it probably gets to a point where you're like just because.
Yeah.
But you try all the things like right, you got to eat your vegetables because
Yeah.
you want to you want strong muscles and you don't want to get sick and we got to
Yeah.
exercise for XYZ reasons. So the reality of it is we're selling influencing all day long, all
Yeah.
day long, and you're either going to be the seller or you're going to get sold. Because in
Oh,
every
I love
relationship,
that.
so where do you want to sit? Do you want to be the one that
Yeah.
has an opinion and has the opportunity to influence? And
Love
at the end of
that.
the day, I've always had sales like up until leaving corporate America, 15 years. Sales was always part of my title, somewhere in
Yeah.
there. And I believe wholeheartedly my job was to educate. My job was to educate. It wasn't like the sale is a byproduct of me listening to you, Emily, understanding what's important
Yeah.
to you, presenting educating you on how whatever it is I have. And sometimes there was I couldn't find it, and that's okay. But for me to be ethical, like, okay, I'm educating you on the value that this provides you on your path and how it can help you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that simple of a reframe is just like, man, I'm just educating. It doesn't mean that you have to say yes. But now you know. Now you have all the information. If I can just go, I'm going to educate 10 people today versus I'm going to close 10 people. Sometimes that's enough of a reframe to get people moving.
I love what you said. I'm gonna definitely have to pull that out. That's like one of my new quotes.
Take it.
Yes, one of the things that I always like to think about too, I love your analogy about Italian, Mexican, whatever, all the restaurants. But I always like to think about like business and sales, like is similar to dating. Because one of my favorite mentors that trained me when I first got into marketing, that's what he would always talk about. And Josh Ginsburg, if you ever listen to this, thank you. I really, really did listen to you with your training. But he would always talk about that. And he's like, there's like the first impressions, there's all these things. And it really clicked with me. At the time, I was like, well, great, I'm terrible at dating. Like, I was single forever. So I'm like, I guess I'm going to be bad at this. But ended up, figuring that part out. But I think it's about finding the right fit. And you do have to put yourself out there. And it's the same with relationships, dating, whatever. If you just sit at home, you never go anywhere and never put yourself in a situation to meet someone, it's unlikely they're going to just show up at your door and be like, hello, let's get married. They're probably crazy, right? They're not a good fit.
Yeah.
I think it's the same with business. You also have to put yourself in the right places and be open to meeting people to find the right relationships. And I know that's the next topic we're going to kind of talk about. But I think people sometimes do that. They expect, again, things to come to them. And it's like, are you putting yourself in the right situations? Are you setting yourself up to attract the people that you actually want to work with, that you'll actually be able to help? So
Yeah, I, as you know, from walking through your Unstoppable Day yourself, that relationships, I believe that your quality of life is directly related to the quality of the relationships you have in your life. And I also think that your level of business, you reaching your goals, is directly correlated to the relationships that you've cultivated too. And not everybody is the right fit. And I wish more people would give themselves the grace and permission to recognize that you are taking quality of life away from yourself, trying to work with somebody that is just somebody that is well outside of your wheelhouse, maybe outside of your value system, probably most importantly. If you're not you're not going to attract your clients. So I think that authenticity and making sure people see who you are and you pour into the relationships that are important to you.
Yeah.
Right. So people say like, well, what relationships do you cultivate every day, Kristy? And I'm like, well, like, it's kind of like, what teeth do I want to floss? Well, I want to keep them all. So, like which ones are important? And then you start to recognize like, wow, why am I letting these people hang around still? Or why am I still, because these other ones, like, does she even know how important she is to me? Does this person that taught me this thing, like, when
Yeah.
is the last time that I reached out and just said, hey, I
Right.
thought of you, and I want you to know, like, how awesome would he feel if you just sent a text message? So
Yeah.
every day, that's part of my morning routine, is connecting with a couple of people and letting them know how important they
Yeah.
are to me. And when I get those messages in return, I mean, it really, like a student who's, something helped them,
Yeah.
or a funny story. Like, I love to laugh, like the college stuff that sometimes I think I tried to forget in my 30s, but now I'm kind of trying to relive them because they were some funny times. Nobody
Yeah.
died. But yeah, I think that it is imperative, if you think that relationship, and just focus on the ones that are in alignment for you. Alignment is everything. If there's some people will say, like, well, which coach do I hire? And I'll say, well, like, can you listen to the person? You like to talk to the person? Can you even show up for the person? Number one,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of the same thing for your clients. Like, can you show up with your full energy and be Emily and enjoy that? Because I guarantee, I promise you, you can keep yourself busy for the rest of your life with the clients that you love to show up for. We
Yeah.
don't have to go after every opportunity.
No, I I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, my agency, part of why we grew so fast wasn't because we were always getting new clients. We grew with most of our clients. Like
Yeah.
I had a lot of my original clients from the very first few months. We kept growing and they doubled, tripled, expanded into other states and they took us with them. And I think that's huge. Like it's a lot better in my opinion to grow with them than have to keep getting, new relationships.
Exhausting.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that, and I think it's amazing when you can be part of that growth and part of that journey.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it's a great
Yeah,
feeling.
I mean, to me, like when you get to a point where people see the value that you add,
Yeah,
and there's trust, like to me, and I don't know these specific situations, that's what happened. Because then you guys
yeah,
grew. Then you guys grew, right? Because then they're
yeah,
like, oh, this thing that Emily said to me before that I didn't have my head wrapped around. Now, when you say it, they're probably like, I don't get it, but yes, let's go. Okay,
yeah,
let's do it.
yeah. And trust is hard to build, but once you get it, I mean, it's a huge responsibility too, for sure. But it's
It is.
amazing. It's amazing to have that, and I think with businesses that are like listening or want to grow more, and they're having like a stalemate or something. They're like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, that's a huge thing. Like, focus on the relationships you do have and make sure they're super, super happy with you because their growth is your growth. Like, So,
Yeah, and I think that sometimes business owners get jaded, and they
yeah,
think like, and it's like, when's the last time you reached out to your customers and just told them how
yeah,
much you appreciate them? Not,
yeah,
not just at like a holiday when you think you're supposed to send a gift or something, but like what, like, do they
right.
know? Like I end the
True.
majority of my conversations with, hey, I really appreciate you, because appreciation is one of my core values. And I want you
Yeah,
to know, like, I really appreciate the time that you spent, or having me on your podcast, whatever it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Well, and I just want to say with you, like that's one of the reasons I've connected with you. You're such a genuine person, and I feel like your connection with me was never about necessarily getting do like something on your list. It was like authentic, and you can feel that. And I
Yeah.
think that's why also a lot of the ick with sales comes into play because it's so obvious it's not genuine with people.
Yeah, well, thank you for that compliment. I appreciate that, and that's what I teach, and I know you do too. That sales is about a genuine connection and looking
Yeah,
for an opportunity to add value. And somebody the other day had said something. I'm working with somebody on some brand messaging, and they said, like, you should use this with your clients. You should use this. He was telling me how much he was over delivering for me, and I was like, I will never tell a client that.
yeah,
I will never tell a
right.
client, like, to me that's a tactic, and I don't do tactics because I don't like when people use tactics on me, because I think they're disingenuous. So
Yeah,
what I teach is that like, if you're a good person, how do we just leverage that? Let me show you how you utilize who you are and
yeah,
just be you, and take the sales off, where it's not about a tactic, it's not about closing, just show
yeah.
up, and it's either going to work out or it's not.
And I think when you try to pretend like you're someone else, because I've had that. I've had people where it's like I feel like they're putting on a show,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh my gosh, like it's so off-putting. And I would rather talk to someone who maybe like makes a couple mistakes, like says something, but they're genuinely like being who they are and showing you who they are, because you can trust them. It's that trust thing too. Because when they're putting on a show, it's like, I don't actually know who you are. And now I don't believe anything you're saying.
It's
So,
so scary.
yeah.
I was part of like a group coaching thing last year, and this one person was in this group and he was showing up a certain way, and then he wanted to have a one-on-one. So I had a one-on-one with him, and then he told me, like, I was like, "When was your birthday?" And he said he was an Aries, and I was like, "Oh, you got some fire in there. You got some fire." That's all I said, Emily, and that was enough to give him permission to be himself.
Yeah.
And now I saw a completely different person than what I saw in the group. And I'll tell
That's
you
cool.
that, like, that scared me, because I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
and I said, well, what, like, none of this is showing up over there. And he's like, well, I kind of am playing the role that I think I need to play. And I'm like, ooh,
There we go. Yeah.
ooh,
Yep. Yeah.
that is like, now what else is in there that I haven't seen yet, And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't think that this is for me, because I get that we show up differently and different parts of our life that call for it.
Sure.
That's not what I'm talking about here, though. This was just
Yeah.
like, it was almost manipulation.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Let's talk about some roadblocks before we wrap it up. So, what are some common like roadblocks you've kind of encountered to implementing the Unstoppable Day? Obviously, I have notes because again, nerd. I've got notes about it. But what are some that you want to bring up?
I love that you're my nerd friend now, and I can
Yes.
say that without offending you.
No.
It's almost like it's more of a compliment.
Yes.
So you had touched on it beforehand, that consistency and discipline is such a huge piece, that just realizing that you have to do this over and over and over again. And also, you may not have all the pieces identified. So
Yeah.
coming back to it and calibrating and checking in, even if it's like you could do it daily, you could do it every Friday, and just go like, okay, how did I do? A lot of people think that it's a one and done, and once I fill out this form, I got it. But no, you actually have to go do these activities and give yourself a significant amount of time. But also come back and check in if we're not quite sure that these are the things that are going to lead us. We got to go, okay, how are we doing here? Same thing with like a diet or exercise program. How are we doing? What do our pictures look like? And I think the other thing too, Emily, is that a lot of people that come to me are high achievers. A lot of people are just as hard on themselves as I am on myself. And they don't realize that they're going to forget to do this.
Yeah.
They're going to forget. And this is about getting up and trying again tomorrow, and getting up and going, okay, like no big deal. You know what? I totally forgot everything I was supposed to do that I said I was going to do on my vision board today. Okay, it's not, I didn't even, where's my scorecard again? And just give yourself the grace to keep showing
Yes.
up and keep doing it, and you will get in the right cadence. And then the other thing is that sometimes people come to me and they have such a, they're trying to do something that's no longer serving them anymore. And that's a lot of the stuff that we work on in my Unleashed program is, okay, well, maybe the reason why you can't get out of the gates with this position is because this is not where you want to be anymore. And you don't know how to get yourself out of it. Like me, right? I was in corporate America.
Yeah.
I had a big, huge job, and it's like, man, my goer can't go anymore. What's really going on here? Well, I had to kind of go back and reconnect to who I am.
Yeah.
For the first time probably in my life, before the world told me who to be, and go, okay, is this what I really want anymore? And that's okay to give yourself permission to switch gears and pivot. Success is not linear. It's not. It's an intuitive dance between what your gifts are and when you want to move in and make that particular gift a priority.
Oh, that was beautiful too. And I love that you said grace. I say grace in space because it rhymes, but also because I just like give yourself grace and space, because it's like you need the space, to do the things. But also when you are like hard on yourself, the grace piece is so important. And with other people, because if you're hard on yourself, you can be too hard on other people too. And then it's like a vicious cycle. So.
And it's crazy when you start to exercise that, Emily, it's amazing how fast, I know for me personally, how fast I would recover and get back.
Yeah.
versus just being stuck in this like what I didn't do yesterday, or it's
Yeah.
like no. This is, I'm a human being, and I love to show exactly what it looks like. Like you're gonna forget. You're gonna forget.
Yeah.
What's your
And
plan?
it's
And
okay.
also,
Hmm.
what's your plan when like life is coming at you?
Yeah.
Because instead of doing all 5 things on your scorecard, maybe
Yeah.
there's just one. Maybe there's just one thing that you can tick off that's going to make you feel
Hmm.
good and at peace before you go to bed. We need a plan for those days too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Is there anything else that we did not cover that you'd want to add about this topic?
I think that it's really important for people. One of the things that I find just in general right now, Emily, is that we're so busy that giving ourselves the opportunity to go into self-discovery, or even like just to sit and think, like to have time on our calendar to sit and think or to really pay attention to ourselves. I don't see a lot of people doing that. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the answers are right there. Like we know ourselves, and we need to tune into that and connect to that and build the program with structure and guidance that's going to work for us.
Yeah, and give yourself that space to be able to be in tune. Like I
Yeah.
always say, I run on it because I love running because I get in this like super high, like amazing state and I get my best ideas. But when I don't
Yeah.
give myself the time for that, or if I do have the time, but I'm rushed, so it actually doesn't even feel fun, then
Yeah.
I'm just like, ugh, I'm not giving myself that space to be my best self. So,
Yeah. We really have to plan these things out. We really
yeah,
have to, like, you have to be intentional with your calendar, and you have to look at everything and go, okay, why am I doing this? Is this getting me closer to what I'm
yeah,
trying to do? And giving yourself the run and the self care and the
yeah.
space on your calendar to just do whatever it is you want to do is a big part of what I see people not giving themselves permission to do on the plan too.
It's a
So,
big takeaway here. Give yourself permission, or you have our permission. If you can't,
yeah.
you got our permission. So do it.
Emily and Kristy
No,
said so.
then do
So,
it.
I mean, just
Yeah.
run with that.
Well, thanks for joining me today. How can everyone connect with you outside if they want to, outside of the show?
Yeah, I'm on all the social media platforms. Kristy Kuhl, Kuhl is my last name. KristyKuhl.com is my website, and I have a podcast, Keep Rising with Kristy Kuhl. So you can consume a lot of free content on YouTube and on Instagram and the platforms. Longer form content is on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone can join me again on April 9th at 10 a.m. Eastern. I will have special guest Amy Haskell on. We're going to be focusing on the topic Shine Bright, Finding Your Inner Confidence. Thank
Oh,
you
I
all
love
for
that.
joining. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.